Hello, welcome to my tutorial on how to set up a scene for the Old West Cowboy Town. This is part two, and the first part of the tutorial talk about how we animated a horse and a carriage. And so today we will just go through the entire scene on how the Old West was set up. The requirement for this tutorial essentially is simple, just three scenes. Let me go through the three scenes that we wanted to do. It's just an OS town. My partner wanted to perform a music video, right? And one of the scene is that she's singing inside the salon, but he would like to have the opening where you can have the person, or rather the camera coming in from a train station. This is a train. This is a train station, and from here going all the way to the saloon, and then inside the saloon she will be singing. All right, that's one of the scene. The other scene is where she would like it to sing at one of the corners of the town. In this case, we selected a side street. This between two buildings, a bank and general Phileas land office store. So this is second part where we needed a person, animate a person walking by this side street as she's saying. And then the third scene is at the barn, right? The barn is where you have, she will be singing here at the barn with a couple of dancers. And then we wanted to put couple of animation of people moving around as well at the background. So that's essentially three scene, right? The saloon singing, the side street singing, and then the barn dance and singing. All right. So what have I got ready for this? Well, as I said at the beginning, this entire town has start off with the train arriving, and then the camera will zoom in from this train passing through the simple train station of the Old West. So that's the one. The other thing that is key is the salon, that we need a salon for her to sing inside a salon. So that building highlighted there, you can see is a salon. We can go into the camera view of the salon. Select the salon overview. All right, do control 0. Oops, this is one of the animation that I should have hidden the rigid body, right? Okay. So this is a scene of from outside the balloon, and then you can have it inside the salon. Control 0 again. Um, and I keep forgetting to switch on the screen feedback. All right, so let me do that. Okay, so this is a scene of the salon. Essentially, she will be looking at. Okay, let me try again. Yeah, this is salon because I have already keyframed the camera and all that. So you have to have your camera head at the right place when it switch over to the salon. In this case, it's a camera pointing at the salon, and then another camera here that points all the way to the singer. So this is the kind of setup that I have inside the salon. Um, so the other one is walk to sing, control 0. This is walk to sing camera. Um, so this camera setting will allow to capture it in a way that you have a person walking by and then the singer singing and looking at the person as he walks by later on. And then the buns bun, uh, the bun, all right. This is the barn. Go to zero again to look at the barn. This is an overview of the barn scene. You will have a camera that uses one of the Miku Miku dance animation set up in such a way that it will animate and move around this entire scene. Um, the result of the capturing can be viewed by the music video itself. I have a link there. But otherwise, this is the street scene that was initially planned out that we need to have. All right. So let us go back step by step how I executed this screen setting. I mean, before I go there, one more thing I want to explain is this town was set up with free assets where it consists of a couple of buildings. I can't provide all to you, but most of the key buildings are provided so that you can also build your own scene using similar concept. Um, but as I say, I would not be able to provide all of them because some of them are specially acquired, but most of them are free assets. So you can use it. It's a very simple town, just a couple of buildings along the street, and then now it's how do we move the camera from a train to the saloon? All right, so the way I do it is that I set up a path. This is the path you can see in orange color, indicating the path that I would have the camera travel all the way in motion to the salon. Um, I will explain a little bit more in detail what that actually entails because it is not just one camera because let me try to show you that what I meant. Okay, firstly, let's pick up the camera. The camera is, I have selected the camera. Let me go to the other layout where I have the camera set up. This is the camera that go from the train station to the salon. So I do a control zero because I selected the camera here, train to salon. And if I were to click play, you can see it will move slowly towards the train, down to the train station. What it's doing now is that the way I set it up, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to explain how you're going to set up. This is usually set up by putting a constraint of a curve line that I was showing you earlier on. Let me just point to you. This is a Bezier curve line that I simply just, create and make it move towards the saloon, right? So this camera that I selected, which is the train to saloon animated camera, you notice that I have a constraint called follow path. Just so that you know, follow path is just one of these constraints here. And I have also used what we call a fixed position. What fixed position mean is that you can now throughout the entire path where the camera will travel, you will make sure that you can have a timing to it, whether you want to speed it up or slow it down. What that means is that if I already got it set up, fixed position camera, I can move the camera fast or slow it down. I can animate it at a certain point where I wanted it to go faster and certain point where I needed it to go slow. Okay, now let's see how we animate this fixed position basically on the camera. So the camera chosen is camera to salon, as you can see from the screen. And what I do is that I set up keyframe at certain position, and you can see that keyframe of this camera that travels using this follow path camera keyframe by moving it down Okay, I'm now trying to go down to the point. Okay, you can do this way, or maybe better to follow this. Yeah. Y- Notice this little key there with the diamond shape. If you click on that, it will go to the next keyframe. So what I was trying to explain is that in this camera, on this path, where I have done keyframe, all the keyframe of the entire path for the camera is can be seen by going into this dope shape and selection of action editor by selecting the camera, and then it will show you all the dot, which is the keyframe point. So by doing this keyframe, what I do is that because I can make the camera go very fast or very slow is by trying to do a number setting. What it does is that if from 0 to 1, it is the entire path length. So what I do is I normally just using this little, I show you again. My cursor is now on the offset factor. By moving this, I'm actually moving the camera along the path, right? So I can make decision at which point that I want to keyframe. For this purpose, when I was learning for the first time, what I do is that I try to keyframe at every about 10 or 20 frames, and observe where the camera is, right? So you can see I've done quite a few keyframe by moving this little point on the right. On the other hand, after keyframing, I can also go to each of the keyframe by clicking on this little button that go to each of the keyframe. So, so this is another way to observe where I keyframe on this particular offset factor. So by just clicking this one, you are now navigating to the points that I have already keyframed. The main part of the animation uh, is around the part where from the beginning of the town street to the Saloon point is quite a distance. It's quite a long distance. You can see from the top, right? This is the yellow point. If from a yellow point traveling all the way to here, I wanted to go faster, and doing some uh, adjustment. I found that if you can see if I do the timeline head move, the yellow point here is also moving, right? So let me try again. Yellow point here, I want it to go up to here within about 40 frames from 90 to 130. You can see the yellow point on the screen is moving as I drag this header on the timeline. Somewhere along here, I put another keyframe. The reason why this have to be a keyframe on this point is because at this point I wanted to slow it down as it enters into the saloon to get that, because there's a lot of things to see around here. Now I'm at around 131. By the way, you can see that when you keyframe on that particular field, in this case, is in a different color, is yellow. Your yellow or yellow greenish indicate that there is a keyframe for this particular field, all right, at this particular frame number 131. So now I'm going to press 0 to view the camera at that frame. So this is how it looks like on the camera view. It is at 131. So now I'm going to maybe just play it instead of dragging it. Uh, you can see the way I have positioned it is at this point. This is where I wanted to animate for the two door. I'm going to click on the door. You see the door, I have a keyframe as well s- on the Z axis basically. So in this case, I think it started at 150. You click in the item, you see it's a yellow here. I keyframe this particular rotation and make it on the Z axis sorry, it's y-axis in this case, to rotate the door. Now, if I do not want to look at the camera view, just look at what I earlier on see. Let me see. Press period to see the door again. Okay, let me show you what I'm trying to look at. What I did was just opening up the door at 150 to 180, right? If I just do a play, you can see that both doors are animated to open, right? And this camera over here is moving into it. So this is a bit tedious, but it's something that you have to do when you do animation of a camera moving in yellow color here as the door opens up. So let me play that again from a camera viewpoint. If I press 0, I will be now looking at a camera point of view. The same thing that was now you can see now the camera is moving in, and from a camera viewpoint how the door opens up. All right, it goes into the saloon. All right, that's the part initial part of the train to saloon moving. However, to enable the camera to be set up in such a way that it's smoothing, what I mean is so that the camera can then be directed and look at the singer. The singer is going to be located here on this seat chair. All right. So once the camera is in the center, let me go back to camera view by pressing 0 again. You know, what I did is that I switched to another camera which is already positioned there. This camera called camera inside is actually a duplicate of this camera when it stopped there. All right, so let me try to show you by yes, somewhere along here I switched to the other camera that I duplicated from the train to saloon camera. But this camera, once I duplicated, I remove all the animation of that camera and then redo the animation. Basically, the animation of this saloon inside is to make it turn. All right, so you can see first, now I'm on the second camera. How did I get into the second camera is because I have set up a marker. At that point, around 231, I think, yeah, around there, I added in a add marker. That's how I got it. And then what I do is I bind the camera to the marker, which is why you can see there's a little camera icon that is called the marker. And then cam salon inside is bind to it. So it switches at that point from train to salon camera. At that point, when you move on to here, the camera switches over to the other camera. You can see this yellow line is the train to saloon camera that I have selected, but the dotted line now indicate that now the camera have been switched over to the other camera because the camera view now is looking at the dotted line, which is a cam saloon inside. So as I move, you can see the dotted line keep moving, right? So this is the second camera view which I have taken over from the first camera train to saloon. All right. So this saloon inside now is turning is viewed towards the position where I wanted to look at the singer, my partner, and the two uh person that I have animated. By the way, I will talk about that in a moment. But they are just simple uh people animated using Mixamo motion and performing a chatting conversation inside and sitting down. So anyway, point now is back to where I'm looking at. This camera will turn slowly to the key character, which is a singer. The singer, which singer is actually simply a image playing a movie, right, with a transparent background. So this person, uh, I have yet another camera now. As you can see, I'm switching to yet another camera. Uh, the reason why I have this other camera is because I wanted to make sure that I can do some animation on this in a different way, because the turning is one point of view, but the other camera I can then do what I like without messing up with my s- earlier on camera. But of course, you could have used the same camera and then animate it. But anyway, the way I do it is that I didn't want to mess up my camera that have just came in from the train station and then switch to a rotation and then switch to another camera that will have a view specially designed to capture this entire scene. All right, so now we have this other camera showing the singer. All right, so that is essentially the camera view for train to saloon and then the saloon singing. The other camera that I wanted to go through is a side street singer camera, which is this one here. I call it walk and sing actually. Um, okay, I just selected walk and sing. I do a control zero to point at the walk and sing. The walk and sing is simply a simple scene where the singers sing and they're having a man walking by as part of the requirement. Um, so this camera is pretty straightforward and it's just directed to a side street. All right. Another key camera would be at a barn. Let's go to the barn. Just firstly, I have an overview, but the real camera that I use is the one called the cam barn animated. If I were to select that and control zero, so this camera is essentially is animated based on motion already captured for this particular entire scene. All right. Uh, So just to see how it looks like in terms of animation, I'm now moving to around here. This is because I already selected the camera barn animated. You can see the keyframe. It is a very complex set of keyframe, but I just wanted to illustrate to you the simple ones that I've done for this tutorial. If I were to move this header, you will see the camera changes. It start off by zooming in and then it rotates. All right, this is just to illustrate to you how uh, I set up this camera for the barn scene and how you should animate it in the way that you want your movie to be done, your video clips. All right. Okay, so that explain the three scene and the associated cameras that I needed to have. So I repeat again, the salon is just essentially the key ones are the one that train to salon inside and then Stacy. And then the side street is just the walk scene, and then another one is the barn animation that I just show you. Okay, a little bit now about the characters that I set up, and in this case, based on the camera scene that I already set up, I decided to make it a little bit more interesting by putting more characters to the scene. The first character I put in is this guy called the cow when seen, I think his character is one of the game character. So he just basically stand there doing nothing, just looks a bit more rugged, I suppose. Let me also go back to frame zero because that's where some animations start to happen. When I want to animate the camera going from the train station to the salon, I decided that part of the scene will be having a cowboy on a horse and a cowgirl on a horse moving along. All right. The cowboy, uh, the animation of the cowboy, you can see I have a rig of the cowboy. This is a Mixamo cowboy motion. Basically, all I did was to move this horse straight on to the other end of the street. All right. While this cowgirl is similar to the camera earlier on, it follow a path. This path, as you can see in orange color, will lead the cowgirl into a horse barn and going round in a circle. Now, of course, it can go round and round. Later on, I can discuss that. But at the moment, the way it's set up is it just go into one circle walk in the horse barn. So that's basically a girl walking slowly. I also added in another motion which is not so significant for this video music. It's the one that I show you in the earlier tutorial, how you animate the horse and the carriage. Now in this scene, all this horse does is that it follow this particular line and going straight. All right, that's all it do. It walks slowly and goes toward to the straight end of the street. So with these three character animated setup, uh, and the door setup with another character here, I think it's Carl. Uh, just zoom into this guy. This is another character, Ho Horse. Okay, his name is Ho Horse, and he's holding a gun and then just gonna stand by at the door of the saloon as you go in. That's basically, and lastly, uh, inside the salon, I have two character, which is basically this girl Rebecca. I can also go into the outline to look at this is Rebecca and a doctor dressed in the old cowboy style that I managed to get. So this two character is basically set up with a maximum motion of sitting idle and talking. So that the character that I set up for the train to Salon, basically. Um, the other thing that I did add into the scene was because the singing in this little salon, I find it a little bit not so exciting. But the partner also said that can we add in a radio? So I got an old radio here at the back end here, and it is a very plain old radio to make it a bit more interesting. I added some animation to it, some coloring. So let me see if I can just do a run. You see, there's a color of the radio and it's blinking, all right? This is, I think, some how radio works in the old days with sound coming out and then having color changes. Uh, Adding color or emission to a radio, I think it was already in my previous tutorial for the bar counter. If you have gone through that, you could know how to set up any object and add in any emission. But what I did in terms of animation is to make the emission blink. All right. To make it blink, the simple way to do it is, for example, I select the radio. I have one of the emission red color set up on one of the bar here. All right. Let me go into the shader, back to the view of the bar counter. Okay. So what I did is that in the emission strength, to make it blink, you fluctuate to zero to a particular pattern. I use a formula here, but basically going around every four frames, it tried to go zero and then brighten up. By using the frame movement, I can make it go from zero to 10 and back as it go forward. All right. So if I click a play, it changes. All right, from red and then darken up. Um, to have the white and red effect, obviously you will have two different material. I think the white one is, I can't remember which one of that, but one of the other color have a similar setup, and put it at different timing so that you can have the red and the white color a little bit out of sync, in terms of emission. So it blinks, in the sense. All right, so that is a little bit about the radio lighting or enhanced with lightings. Um, the other scene that I wanted to say is back to the side street. I select walk and sing and then control zero. I have this other character, a cowboy walking past to the street. So at the moment, the cowboy scene is somewhere around this frame. I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, one, two, three, five. So if I click a play, you notice that this uh, older cowboy is walking towards this singer who is carrying a dog. So the way to time it is that I switch camera to the sidewalk camera, walking camera, and he will start walking at this point. All right. The other thing I want to highlight is that when I was making this scene, I needed to pay a bit of attention to the sunlight because I wanted this particular image plane, which is a singer, to have a shadow that can be seen in the just like any 3D character. So by adjusting the sun position, you can go to the sun. The sun is on the right hand side here. This sun, you can always position it. Uh, it doesn't have to be anywhere. All you have to do is just select the sun and then do a rotation. So if I would go back, press zero to the scene, I have the sun here. Mm, I can use the rotation here to adjust how the shadow looks like. If I were to move it up to the Y direction, you can see the shadow change. This is going left and right on the Z axis. So that was what we show. And then let's see the X is going in the direction. So selecting the sun and playing with the rotation will give you the control of the shadow. The darkness of the shadow, I think, is depending on well, yeah, you can see, you can adjust a little bit about the effect of the sun on the shadow, darker, lighter, and so on. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is that to make the image plane matching in color closer to the environment, in the shading, let me again press zero because we are now looking at this scene and put it into render mode. Um, I wanted to see how to control the color of the image. To do that, in your normal image plane, which is this particular box that you can see, you can add in three nodes that typically used to control the color. The RGB curve, the hue saturation, and the bright and contrast. Bright and contrast is more about, most of the time, is the contrast that I adjust to see how much different between the background and the video. The color will be playing with the hue mostly. And then RGB is also like whether you want more red, more green, or more blue, you can adjust that. I'm not an expert in color matching, but I think the technique is essentially trying to, you know, add more red. If you can see the effect, oops, too much of hue around. It was zero point 0.5 based on my partner own preference and saturation, and then the contrast. I think it was zero point 0.1 that we agree on. If we put, playing with the contrast can have different effect. But again, like I said, I'm not very good at color matching, but this is what we agree on. We have the color ramp to give a bit of more finer controls. It does have some small adjustment of finer control on the effect of the hue, saturation, and the contrast. So anyway, this is the set of value that come to the satisfaction of my partner. Um, but my intention again is to highlight to you this is a very good setup that you can use on the image plane in a daylight environment and control the contrast and color and so on to match it closer to the environment that you prefer. Okay, the barn scene that in my current scenario is already set up to start at this 1400 frames. So I have to position my header around there because it's already set up so that I can now watch the camera for the barn scene. By the way, I animated this barn scene using Eevee and not Cycle. Well, if you remember earlier on, when we were at the salon, if I select salon again, back to the salon, we have the radio with the lights. The reason why we do the enhancement with the light was because we wanted to render this scene in cycle to make it more realistic. So let me show you what it looks like in cycle. If I would press, you can see now on the floor of this salon, because the fact that we have some emission coming on from the radio, you have a reflection from the floor that looks a lot more better. Not only that, you notice that those building outside the salon also have a much better looks in terms of quality of the video. Yeah. Okay. Back to the bun view. So in the bun environment, I uses only EV. So the way we set up is just basically the three dancers and the singers. The singers we have to also watch out for the shadow. It happens to be standing mostly in the shade, but there at some angle it does have shadows. Uh, and you also have the cowgirl on a horse going round and round. But my final video capture is that it keep going round for at least 6 or 7 circles because that was as long as the video clip requires for the dancing. And instead of me trying to animate in this particular file, I duplicated this file and then set up another animation for this cowgirl so that it can go round and round a few times. All right. And also I have added in a cowboy to come in and walk around the path in circle to this barn so they can see the cowboy also in the final scene. The other thing to highlight is that if you if you want to have your own cowboy and cowgirl walking on a horse, the horse is the same horse that I have already shown you. I mean, at the moment, this horse has a carriage, right? If I go back to the beginning, this horse actually walks, as shown in the earlier on tutorial. You can see it is moving, right? So the same horse, all you have to do is just get one of the characters that maybe standing idle motion, and then open up their legs to sit on the horse. That way you would have a cowgirl and a cowboy, uh, cowgirl. She is basically using stand idle motion from Maximo. All I did was to adjust the leg position to sit on the horse. So that way you now have a cowgirl doing a little bit of animation on her own while sitting on the horse. All right, this is a vintage train. I have not animated a train as I don't require that, but I can maybe in another tutorial show you how I can animate a train, at least the classical train, how the wheel move, but otherwise it's not covered in this tutorial. Okay, I hope you enjoy this tutorial and yeah, if there's anything I have to improve going forward, I appreciate some comment. Thank you. Bye.
Hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching.